Well, thank you for joining, everybody. My name is Dan Vlamis, and I'm kind of kicking things off here for talking about what analytics and data Oracle user community learned at Oracle CloudWorld. We have a fantastic panel for you from myself, my brother Tim. We'll talk together. Then we have Nellie and Abby from Oracle and Cathye from Rosendin that'll all speak about that. This is in a series of what we call TechCasts. Analytics and Data Oracle user community has been doing this for, 5 years now, presenting about every 2 weeks or so. And you can see a list of them over at our TechCast page. And I just want to give a quick plug for an upcoming TechCast on our fave features of OAC on October 19th. This will be on the September release, which is the current release of OAC. Will be focusing especially on the newer features of that, and it includes people from OAC product management, and you can bring your questions and comments on that. So that's coming up on October 19th. Register for that from our page at andouc.org/techcasts, and I believe Carrie will put that in the chat so you can go on there and register for upcoming TechCasts. We also have an upcoming one on new features in Oracle Database 23C by Cathye and Gerald from Oracle. And then on November 16th, we have Graph Analytics by Abby and Jim Saprinsky. So you'll want to register for those on our page. And by the way, if you have a topic you want to share, we'd love to hear it. We have this all scheduled out going through the rest of this calendar year, but we have slots open in the new year at andouc.org/techcast, submit an abstract, and we'd love to have you submit your topic. As well, we have merchandise. If you go on our website at andouc.org, you can get some of our great merch. Also, we have several social media channels. This is how you can reach us. These slides, just like all the others, will be available on andouc.org, the TechCasts page, and then you can click on any of these and join up with us. Most of that is really in this Slack workspace where we all talk back and forth with each other. We have an upcoming conference taking place in March of 2024, Analytics and Data Summit 2024. If you're interested in these types of topics that you'll especially hear about today and things that are on our TechCast page, you really want to come to this in-person conference. We were back last year. That's what that picture is from. And we want the thing you need to know is that the abstracts are due at the end of this month. So everybody get your abstracts in. We'll be selecting those in the selection committee for the next couple months. And then you'll be able to join us in Redwood Shores, California for Analytics and Data Summit 2024. You can find out more on our website, andouc.org/AND Summit 2024. I'm going to share a couple of resources in here. This is some stuff where you can get information on what took place at CloudWorld. There were all sorts of sessions at CloudWorld is on air. You can replay many of those sessions. Some of these were pre-recorded ahead of time, and you can now play those and listen to a bunch of those, the keynotes, as well as some of the learning sessions that were recorded before the conference and during the conference. That content's available through October 20th, and there were all sorts of sessions on there if you want to replay some of those. As well, some of the keynotes, one of the ones you'll hear later on is Juan Loaiza's keynote, Future of Data and App Dev. You can see that. And there was a neat little 3D scan demo video, and I want to take the time to show it. But it was very cool. They had this in the exhibit hall that you can watch as well. Again, there you can see the link for that. There's also one of the ACEs put together a download of all the session slide decks that you can just grab them all, which is very convenient to have. With that, we'll go to our panel and find out what their key takeaways was. Tim and I are going to start on this, then we'll hear from Melly, Abby, and then finally from Cathye on that. So, Tim, what did you think?
Yeah, so thanks, Dan. I think I think the key thing about CloudWorld this year was that the energy was very high, and it was different. I mean, last year was different in terms of Vegas being a new place and people not knowing
it's a reboot year.
whatnot. And this year there just seemed to be a lot more positivity and energy and whatnot. Clearly, AI was the big topic that would seem to be everywhere, and everybody had to mention, and it was just very pervasive,
Yeah, and for one of the things I learned, I was surprised by this, Fusion Analytic Warehouse, we finally got used to FAW, or Fusion Analytic Warehouse as a name, and they decided to rename that, I guess, to Fusion Data Intelligence Platform, but it is a little different than FAW. It's a platform rather than just a product, which is what FAW really was, or is, I guess. Maybe a sign of that customer success, that it's gaining in popularity. And I was interested to see the analytics. A lot of them were talking about what was in Fusion Analytic Warehouse as a data pipeline, and hence that name. I don't know if they, finally it's important enough that Larry said, hey, I have to rename this product. So.
No, I mean, my takeaway on that customer success part was that the people who are using it and have gotten kind of through the first cycle with it were very excited and very positive, and that was exciting to see. So
yeah, exactly.
A lot happening in analytics in general. Gabby's presentation was phenomenal in terms of the roadmap and the future roadmap and whatnot. So a lot of cool stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah, exactly. I did hear a side comment that Oracle OLAP as a product offering is going away, but is replaced by Analytic Views, and that's been out for a while. Analytic Views I think has been one of those best kept secrets that a lot of people don't know. The ability to do a lot of the stuff that we did with OLAP, well, pretty much everything that we did with OLAP now, but with a relational backend using Analytic Views. So that sounds like that, and it's still in 23C from what I understand. It's just not highlighted as much. And I did take the opportunity in preparing for this to ask one of our customers. We had several customers there, but one of them, I asked them what his takeaway was, and he said there weren't as many sessions on Oracle Data Integrator. I thought that was kind of interesting from a customer perspective. But we heard there's a compliance release of ODI coming in the next year. And really what I've seen and what he echoed was Data Studio is getting that focus from Oracle, especially the data transforms is getting that focus. And that's where you're going to see a lot of this, Oracle Data Integrator.
Yeah, I think Dan, that comment and kind of thinking of it on an overall ecosystem basis, platform basis, rather than just product specific, is kind of an overall theme as well. I mean, the other thing that people should know is that it was great to get together in person. I mean, my personal favorite was the chocolate from all over the world at the Ace Lounge. For those of us who were aces, that we had a massive amount of candy that was brought in. It was pretty fun, anyway.
Okay. Some of the stuff, Tim, I put in this for you, about the AI in here and kind of come with some bullets.
So, Cohere is a partner, and basically what, they're one of the providers of they're one of the flavors of the, LLMs, the large language models that's out there. And so they are making their integration of their model available in OCI. And I'll go to the bottom first, Dan. There were really three areas. I went through a lot of AI stuff for what it's worth, because I feel like I need to be up on it. And there's a lot that I'm still trying to work my brain around. What I took away was that Oracle really has three areas of concentration. One is this infrastructure area and this is where the people who are in this space are geeking out about, how many, graphical processing units and shapes, and, how many, teraflop byte bits of processing power are in this particular shape and how they're doing their training and how fast it is. And, Oracle is very much presenting that they have competitive advantage in this area and they can do processing faster, therefore cheaper. So that was kind of one area, which is I will call the infrastructure or the kind of the hardware in the cloud type of kind of discussion. This other was in generative AOI, was the marrying of your private data with these large language models so that you can, in essence, not send your data out to a service. That, quite frankly, is a little bit scary. And there's discussion about who owns what data once it's been processed. And if you're sending out to a service, it's a little bit gray. Some of the experts I talked to was, oh, no, it's very straightforward. And I was like, yeah, really? No, they didn't want to talk about the legal aspects. So it was kind of interesting. So the other thing was that Oracle is embedding AI in all their applications, right? And so this is just it. So that's the kind of the third area of focus is how do we enable people to use these capabilities in all our product across the board. So I pulled Mark Hornick aside.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of the guy in the machine learning space for Oracle and in the database. And I said, so Mark, help me out. What with the AI stuff, what's missing? What should we focus on? What should we pay attention to? Where's the opportunity? And he said, Tim, it's really about prompt engineering. It's about how you actually interact with these models to get the value out of it. So he said, if there's anything that you want to focus on, learn about that. I found that really, really interesting.
Well, I'm going to be interested. Abby's going to be talking about this, I'm sure, later on. So
yeah, Abby can set us straight.
I disagree with everything you just said.
I hope she does.
It'll make it more interesting that way. All right. So I grabbed. Go ahead, Abby.
I would never disagree with Tim.
All right. So then I grabbed a couple slides because I thought it'd be useful for the audience to see some of the slides that were shared in this. Vector databases is how we end up including many of the things like Cohere. And so I'm going to just blow through these because if you want to see the presentation.
Yeah, Dan, the only point is the vector database is the Oracle database.
Yeah,
that's what I found out. Larry was talking about, oh, we have a vector database now, and it's actually just a new embedded capability or a new capability of the same database anyway.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's again part of that whole story of Oracle being the center of things, and you don't need separate products.
Well, converged database, right? It's a
converged database. That's what I was like. I was struggling with the term converged database. Thank you.
Yeah.
It also has vector search. It's just what you can do for this to do search inside the database using this vector data type. Okay.
Yeah.
And then this I thought was a good slide for showing how retrieval augmented generation. Boy, it's hard to say. Using that against the vector database, finding that private content, sending it to Gen AI to try and answer the type of question. We even actually tried using one of these tools afterwards and said, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's got a ways to come, but it has a lot of promise for where we'd head with this stuff. Anybody else break in if you have other stuff to add? But
no, I just the only thing on that stuff, Dan, is I'm trying to do a lot of background reading right now in terms of some of the academic papers and whatnot to kind of wrap my head around how is this stuff working, and it's pretty interesting. And yeah, there is a ways to go, but there's a lot. There have been significant breakthroughs. So I think it's a real mistake to assume that the challenges that a lot of these neural nets had for many, many years, are going to continue. There's a whole new state. There was a significant breakthrough, and now there's a whole new set of challenges. But the opportunities are very, very real. That's my point.
Well,
I came away a believer.
Yeah, and it takes a while for the industry to catch up. as well.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. The capabilities are in the platform. This
Yeah.
is a cool little demo in showing how
Yep.
you can use
Yep.
image similarity, looking at what this kitten looks like. Let's find the other images that are similar, and you
Right.
can use this type of SQL to say get the top 5 photos similar to a photo taken before the year 2020 in Boston. It looks like this is actually first 2 rows, little bugs and slides on such. But this is the type of thing you find, and then you can pull these from the database and see similar images.
So it's
cool.
again, these vectors, these embeddings are literally just a string of numbers.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like almost like a principal components analysis, PCA thing, where they're developing these so that they can immediately, do the distance comparison. And that's really the only algorithm that's in there is this vector distance.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think it'll be added. Go ahead. Somebody else was going to add.
I found this interesting. I wonder if, at Rosendin, if we're going to be able to use something like this to say for safety, because we have like cameras in our cars or in our vehicles.
Yeah.
So I think it might be something used to say, hey, this behavior, this is happening. Could it possibly be causing wrecks or unsafe things? So it's kind of, don't know how it's going to work, but this was really interesting to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one last slide. This is the type of thing now you can do with autonomous database with Select AI. Select AI, what are our top 10 streamed movies that were released after 2020, after 2010? And this is using that same type of technology, the AI technology, to be able to go and rewrite that SQL and be able to go and get that type of answer. We tried this a little bit and yeah, it works, but you need some governors on this because it can go off the rails.
We need some prompt engineering knowledge is what we need.
Right. So that's what we have from us. We have other people on the panel. I'm going to go on to Dr. Nelly on this and go through some of her slides on this. So go ahead, Nelly.
Thank you, Dan. And since you reminded me that about the Dr. Belly thing, I just thought this little thing would be interesting to share with folks here. So my PhD actually, and this is like over 20 years ago, 25 years ago, was on content-based retrieval of images. And in those days, we would struggle with color histograms and texture histograms and trying to find images that were similar to this image. This was before neural networks transformed how documents, images, and all kinds of unstructured objects can be matched. So it's pretty
all
amazing.
This stuff that we say is all new. People have actually been doing this a long time.
Well, newer than 20 years for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it doesn't sound so new to someone who maybe started their career 5 years ago, but
okay. Well, go
someone
ahead.
like me who's been around for a while. I know in the late 90s, early 2000s, this did not exist.
Okay.
At least not to this level of sophistication. And it's quite amazing to me to see how far that field has come. It's not just image, of course, and there's lots of other things that you can match so effectively. And it's really exciting to have all of that be part of the database. I feel in some ways I've come a full circle. So it's pretty exciting how Oracle is constantly innovating. So way back when I joined Oracle like 25 years ago, at that time, we had tried to create a successful business from that product. And now that we have newer technology, all of that is now added to the database so that we can do things like matching images or matching documents and so on more successfully. So Oracle is always constantly innovating, and it's really great to see all of these features and a couple of other features, the JSON duality views and graphs. And those are some of the topics that one's keynote touched upon. And what was really exciting for me is the way he put it, which is you can store your data any way you want, and Oracle believes there's a certain way to store this data well, but then an app can treat the same data in a relational way. It can treat the same data as a document, and that's where the JSON duality views comes in. You can operate on this data just as you would operate on a JSON document, and internally it's stored in a way that you can get a relational view of the data equally easily. And similarly, from a graph perspective, you can store your data in a relational way in tables and columns, but you can easily get a graph view of the data. So I recommend watching this keynote. I think one's key point was developers can just have they can have an intent of how they want to use this data, and that does not have to dictate how they store the data. There's kind of a decoupling of how it's stored and how it's used, which I think is a great, it's a significant innovation, and a lot of this is coming in Oracle Database 23c. And just to go back to Dan and Tim's points for a second, I think I agree with them. There was a lot of energy in the room, in the whole area, and even on when the flight, when I was flying from Boston to Vegas, the people in front of me, the row in front of me, were all going to CloudWorld, and they were talking about it, and they were excited about all the connections they're going to make there, and so on. There was just a lot of energy, which was really great to see. It's also great to meet face to face with a lot of customers, because you kind of, when you're at an event like this, you're reminded that almost anything that you touch, like you're buying rail tickets or you're logging into your healthcare portal, almost anything you touch it's probably linked to Oracle in some way. Just nice to see customers from all of these different domains come to the show. Sorry, Dan, were you going to say something?
Sorry, I meant to say before two things. One is the other speakers, if you prompt me to do next slide. And the other thing I need to tell the audience is, hey, if you have specific questions, put them in the Q&A widget on here. So sorry, Melly, back to you.
Yeah, oh, not a problem, Dan. Well, I'll say one more thing on this slide, which is, again, in the theme of Oracle is constantly innovating. Oracle Spatial has been a feature in the database, I think for 25 years or so. It's not a new feature, but we're continually adding to that. And we have some enhanced 3D features. And all of this was very nicely showcased at the busy 3D printing demo area that we had. And so it was there was always a line of people there. And Paul, who put this together, he had this 3D printing machine, and he had the scanner, and he would be scanning people's heads or hands or fingers to kind of get an image of them to print. And the key thing was this was one of the technologies he used was a spatial 3D technology, and I thought it highlighted really nicely all the things that the database can do without having to go get a specialized tool. Next slide, please, Dan. So I am currently focused on graph analytics. So let me just talk a little bit about the new graph feature that we have. That was one of the key things that were highlighted at CloudWorld. Data, almost all data you touch has connections. Like that could be either social media connections. I'm friends with Jean, or I forward something that Jean has posted. That's kind of a more obvious connection. Or if like Jean and I go out for dinner and then I transfer my share of the dinner to her, that's a connection between my bank account and her bank account. And that's a connection as well. So data has all of these implicit connections, and some of it is represented as foreign key constraints in a relational context. But a graph data model aims to make these things more explicit so that you can write lots of more interesting queries on your data. So in this context, Abby had an interesting session on when you're playing soccer or football in Europe. If I pass the ball to Abby, who passes the ball to Cathye, that's a connection between us. It's a connection between me and Abby, and a connection between Abby and Cathye. And Abby uses that information to do all kinds of interesting analytics on the data to come up with strategies for future games. So I highly recommend checking out the slides that she has on that. So once again, all data has connections, and the idea of graphs is to make these connections explicit. And what we do in Oracle is we create a graph view of the data. And this is what Juan was talking about. It doesn't matter that your data is stored as tables. You can just create a graph view of this data and then navigate the data through the connections in the data. Next slide, please, Dan. And what we have in Oracle Database 23C is implementation of this part of the SQL 2023 standard, which was, I think, released in June 2023. And so we are one of the first vendors to actually implement the graph part of this new SQL 2023 standard. And so what this enables you to do is write these graph queries that would help you navigate connections in your data, do that in SQL itself. So this means that any SQL tool that you use, like Apex or any development environment or tool like SQL Developer, all of these things you can directly use with graphs. You don't have to learn anything new. So graphs kind of become more accessible. Just create a graph view on your data, and then you can start working with graphs. There were a lot of sessions around this, including like a hands-on lab, which is available as part of the Oracle Live Labs. And some of the sessions around property graphs in Oracle Database 23C were recorded. So you can go see that as well. And also coming up, we have a session, I believe, by Abby and Jim in November. Dan was talking about that, which is going to be using property graphs in interesting ways. Next slide, please, Dan. So I'll just wrap up by showing the power of this new SQL syntax and why you might find it interesting to check out some of these sessions, and also Abby's and Jim's session in November. You could do things like navigate links in data, right? And that's what you have on the right. That's the SQL you would use to do before you had the new standard. Now with the new standard, you have syntax that makes it more compact to navigate these connections. So I hope you're as excited as us to go and check out these different resources and sessions. And over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I won't go through any more. By the way, we already had some questions being asked, and Tim jumped in and answered one. Hopefully the answer is visible to others on any demo on Select AI with Cohere integration. So over on to Dr. Abby. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dan. So yeah, I think there's a lot of the ones that I would have picked out have already kind of been said, which is great. I think Gen AI is the hottest topic in town. So loads of people have heard of it. I think the use of things like ChatGPT, which is in the general domain, has meant that term Gen AI is kind of there already, which was brilliant. So people had heard about it, etc. But what people started to think about is, how does this impact my business? How am I going to implement it? How does it line up with my line of business or with my team? And does it add or does it take away from my team? So really interesting that already we've stepped across from just what is Gen AI, but we're already at the stage of actually what's the impact of Gen AI, which I found really interesting, because we usually have a bit of a slower takeoff, but everybody was talking about it and a real buzz around it. And as Dan mentioned, you know, Oracle's investment into GPU chips and stuff has meant that there is a good step forward. And if these models need training, the technology and infrastructure is there behind it, which I think was fantastic to hear. Obviously, you know, database has still got masses of work that we can do in there. So, you know, the vectors was one aspect. I mean, 23C, whilst it's been in developer mode and it is out there, I thought Connor did a great little series of videos on the build up to CloudWorld, where he kind of came up with 23 different things that you could do in 23C. I guess one that might have gone under the radar for a few people is that the autonomous database container image is now available. So what that meant is you can now bring that into, you know, you can use that not just on the platform, but actually bring it into a container, which is fantastic because you've got the SQL, the worksheets, Data Studio, Apex in that container. It's freely available already. I checked it this afternoon. It's there, so you can go and get that. The other one that was interesting announcement around the autonomous was the elastic resource pools. So if people are looking at the impact of cost and things like that, the elastic resource pools is a massive resource that's now there as well. So lots of stuff still going on in the database. I know everyone's like, oh, it's Oracle, it's a database company. Actually, there's really exciting features in the database that from an AI perspective, definitely ones that we're going to be keeping an eye on. Looking at that Gen AI, when I started talking to people, one thing that popped up quite a few times was data strategy. Still requires some work. What is it? How does it fit with Gen AI? How do I align to it? How does Gen AI align to my data strategy? Ultimately, the big topic obviously is still that you need data for all these models, etc. So, you know, a lot of people going back to how does this impact and how do I need to look at my strategy, etc. I think the one around that, Mike Blackmore gave a presentation where he's looking at data strategy, and he did it really well. He didn't talk about a single technology in there. He simply talked about data strategy. So if you do get a chance, check out his slides if you are kind of struggling with that bit. Not all things are AI. Safra did a great one about collaboration and success. How Uber, etc., have worked with Oracle to generate great success. So, you know, Safra was very inspiring from that collaboration piece, you know, thinking about simple solutions to the problem. I know that everyone, you know, Larry himself said, you know, generative AI is the most important new computer technology ever, maybe. And, you know, I think we probably all do jump to that machine learning, the Gen AI, etc. But actually what I took from some of the chats with customers was the simple solutions are still working the best. So, you know, not necessarily always jump into the AI solution. So overall, I'm with everyone else. The buzz was fantastic. There was more partners than I've seen before. There are loads of customers coming up with some really interesting problems and things to solve. I think there's probably one other area I want to just touch on, which is the AI services. You know, we've got the OCI generative AI, we've got the speech service, the language service, and the digital assistant. Now, the digital assistant one really got people talking on how that can actually fit together with Gen AI and understanding your own documents and fitting that all together. So the other thing about that collaboration equaling success is one of the flavors I got was it's not just one tool anymore. There could be combinations of tools and collaborations between, you know, myself and Melly and Dan, working together, collaborating together to get success. So, you know, there was a lot of that kind of discussion at CloudWorld.
Okay. Anything else, Abby?
No, that was me.
Pausing. Okay. I just make sure I'm reading the queue. All right. And then, so let's go on to Cathye. What did you take away from Oracle CloudWorld?
So I probably have a different perspective on CloudWorld. I've been going to CloudWorld for probably, I remember going to one in LA, which nobody ever remembers that one. But so I've been going to them in Open World and CloudWorld for many, many years. In the past, I've always gone as a consultant. So I will tell you, as a customer, for anyone who hasn't been there, I was thinking, wow, I'm going to get to relax. I'm going to go to the sessions I want to go to. I lined out all this information I wanted to learn. And then I thought, okay, now I can have some breaks in the evenings and relax, right? As I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take time for myself. Well, when I got there, I was quickly told that our main focus as a customer wasn't, or what our company wasn't focusing, our company was not focusing on learning as much at CloudWorld from going and attending sessions. They felt like we could attend sessions, you know, watch things online, but to really meet and network. So I spent most of my time meeting with like Oracle. We had some great meetings with Oracle to talk about a proof of concept that we want to have on some AI stuff. We also met with some partners and talked about some things some initiatives that we have. I've had breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even one of our Oracle reps took us clubbing. So I spent most of my time, like I said, meeting with them. I had an Oracle rep. I did have a question. I had an Oracle rep send me an email like the weekend before we were leaving for CloudWorld, said, hey, if you need anything, and you never send me an email and say, hey, if you need anything, if you don't want a response, because I need something. And I was the one that said, hey, I said, hey, I haven't seen a lot on ODI. Very similar to what Dana said. I didn't see a lot on ODI being at the conference, and I would like to understand it a little bit better. So it seems like my fear was that it was going away because there hadn't been a release out in several years. So that was one of my focuses, was to find out about it. And the reps set up a meeting for me and one of the product managers to kind of discuss it. And I think like Dan or Tim said earlier, they do have a release coming out, a compliance release in the next year. They are putting a lot of the features into the transforms that's in Data Studio. It's not saying that they said, you know, someday in the future, Data Studio transforms may replace ODI, but I think it's just too early to tell. So ODI is a mature product that doesn't need a lot of enhancements. So that was kind of what I got from them. So I was glad to hear that. I thought, you know, we talk about AI and how it's growing, and I went to Larry's keynote, and he talked about how it's going to, you know, take over the programming, and, you know, it talked about how it's just going to do all this programming for us. And then I went to talk to one of the Apex, when I was in the exhibit hall, talked to one of the Apex product managers, and they said, yeah, no, it's not ever going to go 100% away. So when we have all this great AI, you're still going to have someone come in. People are going to want to do tweaks and do things. So there's going to still need to have a need for programming. So I kind of thought that was exciting. And then, as Dan said, I met with one of my oldest friends when I was there, one of my oldest colleagues and friends back from my OLAP days, back before Oracle even had it. And he did confirm, like Dan said, it is going away. It is still in the 23C release. Said you could still run the codes, but it will be going away in the near future. And then my key concern, and this is for anyone who, I think there's even, I had this question out many years ago, even back when I was consulting, was the finer grain security that they don't have it in DV that they have in Classic. So if you give somebody a right to build a report, build a workbook, then they can also bring in new data and they can do things. And that was something that I had customers as a consultant say, hey, we don't want them to have that much. I did find out that in the December release that you're going to have the finer grain security. So that was exciting. Hopefully that's helpful for those who were looking for some finer grain security in OAC DB. But my main focus was I did spend time networking, spending time for those who also work remote a lot. I know we have a lot more remote working. I thought it was a wonderful opportunity for me to spend time with my coworkers, my colleagues, partners, people that I've known in the business, may not be doing business with them today, but have known them in the past, and to get with Oracle and actually just have some face-to-face time and meeting and talk about our goals and what we're doing as a company, and go out and have some fun as well, and get to know people on a personal basis. And also, you know, Vegas is a wonderful place to see sights. It's a great place to people watch. If you see here the Sphere, if nobody has ever seen the Sphere, it's really pretty cool. I was very fortunate that my hotel room had a view of it. I was just right there. So I was able to come in at night, decompose and look at the Sphere. And so that was really exciting for me.
Hey,
It's
Cathye.
very cool seeing that. for the first time because I didn't see it last year. And it is neat.
So, it's worth mentioning that CloudWorld took place in the Venetian.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
the
yes.
exhibit hall is there in the right-hand side of your slide where it says the Venetian, whatever. That's a conference center. So we're literally on the same block as the Sphere. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I stayed in the
I
Palazzo
completely-
Tower. I stayed in the Palazzo Tower, which is right there with the Venetian. It's part of the Venetian. And yes, it was just right there. You're able to see it. That's why I chose this one, because I had the Venetian in the background. So yes, thank you, Tim.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really, if you've never seen the Sphere, it's really cool. Some cute pictures of it. So.
And I guess it's now
Okay.
open. I saw in the news that U2 opened it up in terms of a
Yes.
performance venue. So,
Yes. Yep. Highly recommend seeing it.
Okay.
Okay, next slide. Bye, Dan.
I'm trying. There.
Okay. So here's my takeaway is take time to spend with friends. And when I say friends, it's our colleagues, it's people we've worked with in the past. It's Oracle, it's your partners, it's, like I said, people at other companies. And I felt like I was able to do that and able to make some new friends, see some old friends, make some connections. And it was just really great to do that, because I think in the world that we're in now, where everybody's meeting remote, it was really great to actually get out and see people in person.
Oh, that's
As a matter
great.
of
You got
fact,
a picture of the new aces. You're a new ace.
I
So.
do. I am a new ace. I do have that. And what's funny is I actually saw Abby was at one of the analytics happy hour things, and Abby
Yeah.
goes, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "Yeah, I've seen you on video, Abby, a lot." But we just never met. We never met in person, so that was kind of cool. Yes, hi, Abby. Okay.
This was at the party.
Yes, this was at the party. Mine's black for some reason.
Oh,
This
no,
this was at one of the receptions I went to.
Oh, okay. So it
Oh,
looks
there
like
it is. It's back up now. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm not a late night person, but we really did have some fun.
All right. Well, we have a little bit of time left, but I do want to let's see, I forget to the next slide. That's right, I have to down. All right, so I have a poll to ask while we kind of wrap up, and I'll also encourage anybody to, if you have questions, to put them in the Q&A widget. I do want to see what would draw you to Oracle CloudWorld 2024. What do you think is the most important part of this? And hopefully we can get a poll fired. Yep, there it goes. We'll have that open. So what would draw you to Oracle CloudWorld 2024? Presentations or education, the exhibit hall, or keynotes, or the Las Vegas Sphere, now that you've heard about it a little bit, networking with other people, or going clubbing with Cathye? So we'll give you all a chance to answer on this, and then we'll close. While we're waiting for people to vote, I do want to mention, hey, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A widget. We have some experts here that can try and answer your questions that you may have about this, and then we'll have some closing comments. So let's see. Anything else? There's the poll. There we go. Okay, so the poll fired. We've got that back. Looks like I'm seeing that networking is the #1 reason, with 73% of why people would be going to Oracle CloudWorld, which is kind of interesting. Keynotes, second place, and then presentations and education. Cathye, I'm sorry you lost out on the clubbing.
Well, clubbing is
Somebody
overrated.
wants to go to it. So that's good.
They must have saw me drag my coworker out when they played a country song. That's it.
So that's what we have in terms of presentation content. With one thing, I just need to plug again our upcoming conference on analytics and data, Oracle User Community, our Analytics and Data Summit 2024. Registration is open, by the way. Find your way there. But the big thing is submit abstracts. We want to hear your case studies, what you've been doing with it. Frankly, especially from a customer perspective, if you have some customers that are doing things, interesting things with the technology, go to andouc.org/AND Summit 2024. We'll also be obviously at CloudWorld next year as well. Any other parting thoughts from any of our panelists before I start closing things down? I'll give a chance for some questions to go in the Q&A section, and then we'll close down.
Dan, I just want to mention that the user group seems ideally, organized right around the center of where the juice was for Oracle. I mean, I really believe that. So analytics was hugely present in all the applications and the infrastructure and why it's being built out the way it is, and obviously doing analytical processing. So
yeah,
I feel really good about kind of where things are headed, and are we spending time in the right place?
Yeah, we actually have a track specifically on generative AI and machine learning in there, as well as the analytics track, the spatial, the graph track, and the data lakehouse tracks. And so submit your stuff on those topics. I think that we are poised to be at the center as a user community that focuses especially on this area. I would agree.
Also, I would say, I know we have one on saying they would do the exhibit hall. I will tell you the exhibit hall is definitely worth going, because that's where you can really get on some one-on-one if you have some questions. And I had some great questions answered by going into the exhibit hall. So
yeah,
can't speak highly enough about that. Yes.
Good point. Any other thoughts? Anybody else? Okay, well, join us for our next TechCast. We plugged it earlier, but we'll be talking about our fave features in the new OAC release that has rolled recently or is in the process of rolling, coming out in another 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll talk to you in another 2 weeks. Bye.